Hi, this is Tom Burkett with the Songbird Live sessions. And today's session is with Jim Rosenthal, the leader of Windy City, the famous Chicago tribute band. Welcome, Jim. We're glad that you're here.
Well, thank you so much, Tom. It's great to be here talking with you today. By the way, you said leader. I am a leader in the band, but I'm certainly not the leader.
Yeah, we can talk about that if you want. Most bands have like a personality that winds up pushing the band and everybody winds up calling him a leader. You, of course, are a major part of that. But I know that you didn't start the band by yourself. You want to talk about how that's structured?
Sure. For years, David Judson and Bob Rosen and I, David, our lead guitarist, and Bob, our bass player, and me, the drummer. In other words, I get to hang around with musicians. We had played together in sort of a Beatles, Beach Boys, 60s band for years. And we talked about the possibility of doing a Chicago band, but we figured it was going to be too hard. We didn't know any horn players, whatever, but we started working, the three of us together, playing some Chicago songs as best we could. Of course,
Mhm.
none of the three of us sing that well. We are all background singers, but we knew what we needed.
Well, as somebody who has started a band, I know that it's really difficult to find all these players, but on the other hand, once it gets started, they all find you. So now I'm sure it's not so hard to recruit like brass players and stuff like that. You sure got a bunch of good ones though.
Well, thank you. It's harder than it seems because Chicago is a phenomenal band. They were all terrific musicians, and in fact, we had a hard time. We did find, fortunately, very early, we found John Williams, our trombone player, and
Sure.
you know,
Yeah.
Chicago's all about the bone. They're Jimmy Pankow, the
Yeah.
trombone player for them, is a phenomenal musician. He wrote a lot of the songs, and he did the scoring for a lot of the songs. So we're very lucky to have John. John brought in Javier Gutierrez, and those two have been with us since the very beginning. And so the five of us were pretty much the core originally. Next was Patrick Robbins, who sings the baritone parts and plays phenomenal guitar, and we were very lucky there. To go on, we've had 5 or 6 keyboard players. Our most recent keyboard player, John Jurek, just retired, and fortunately, Renee Pena is playing with us currently. We'll find out if that's permanent or not. We hope so. We love him. The other thing would be the trumpet player. We went through several trumpet players before we found the guy who could really play the parts night in, night out, sound great playing it, and not have any clams. You want to explain what a clam is? You know that word.
Oh yeah, I know it well. When you're playing brass, there's several aspects to it. Your lips, the air, the shape of the lip compared to the air, because if your lip is not shaped just right, you start blowing. The next thing you know, you get a pia where your lips just fall to the wrong harmonic and it just sounds real horrible. Chris does wonderful. In fact, I've heard him play with you several times that he didn't do that one single time on an entire concert. And that, because I used to have a brass quintet, I'm telling you, that's difficult.
Yeah, we feel like everybody in the band, everybody respects everybody else's playing, and we have a number of virtuosos in the band. Our unicorn, of course, being Ken Egger. Ken does the Peter Cetera part. He has a very high voice, nothing in falsetto. It's all, his real voice that we're hearing all the way up the scale. He's perfectly in pitch. He has a great sounding voice. We call him the talent when he walks in the room.
Oh man, he is. And he can do that all night long, that's incredible in itself.
Yeah. And we love he can growl, he can sing high and soft, he can do pretty much anything with his voice. We are extremely fortunate that he's in the band.
Yeah, he's amazing.
I mentioned David Judson. David is a musical director in addition to being our lead guitarist, and he does sing some. He also does all the videos. Every song we play has a video behind it that uh, uh, accompanies the song. And he's the one that does all the videos. He runs the show in terms of telling us what to play and when to play it, how loud to play, etc. And he's pretty strict, but he's strict because he wants us to be great, and we appreciate that in him.
Well, what you have accomplished is you have a band that can play the Chicago literature, not just 1 or 2 songs, but the whole catalog, which is huge. And you can do them all by memory, and, I mean, it's just wonderful. Now, let me ask you, why does accuracy matter to you?
Well, the bottom line is there are a number of bands that play Chicago, and we feel like we owe it to our audiences to play pretty much exactly what they played on record. We think that it's a visceral experience when you go to see Chicago or a Chicago band, and we want to sound as close to the original recording as we can. And the only way to do that is to be good at what you do. The example being, I didn't just play those parts. I actually sat down with all of Danny Seraphine's parts, the drummer for Chicago, the original drummer, and slowed them all down and isolated the drums. And so I would sit for hours and go, okay, now he hits this tom and then the snare drum and then that, no, the other tom, and practice it slowly and then speed it up until I could finally play it. And I think everybody in the band had to do pretty much the same thing to be able to play Chicago's music. As much as I love rock music, and a lot of the bands that came out of that era, they're pretty simple. They play 4 or 5 chords in a song. They don't do key changes or rhythm changes from 4/4 to 7/4 back to 3/4. Chicago does all that. They are trained musicians, and the challenge of playing their music is what's fun for us.
I think, didn't most of them come out of University of Chicago or one of
Uh,
those
I
schools
think
there?
LaSalle and yeah, a bunch of them did, and they were all music majors. And the last one to join the band, the original band, was Peter Cetera. Um, Recently saw Chicago, about 2 months ago. The only original member in the band was Lee Loughnane, who is still terrific even at 80. But I was a little disappointed, not in the musicianship, because they're phenomenal musicians, all the guys that are playing with them now. I was a little disappointed because they hadn't put the time to learn the original parts. And I know you wanna make it your own and make it, different, so for whatever reason, so it's not boring or whatever. But, I thought Danny Seraphine did original drumming. He did, percussion things that I've never heard another drummer do then or since. And if you're gonna be in Chicago, learn the parts. So who are you? You're a session guy that is on tour with them, but you're a sideman. Learn the exact guitar parts that Terry Kath played. Learn. I mean, the other thing that gets overlooked is Peter Cetera, of course, has that voice that's none other, but he was a phenomenal bass player. People realize how hard the stuff that he played is, and how much it contributed to their sound. And so Bob Rowe,
Right.
our bass player, has worked really hard to play those exact parts. And that's, if you're going to be in a Chicago band, play Chicago. It's not just the song and playing the chords. It's really learning the parts that were so unique to them.
Well, so many people are very similar to me. I grew up in a high school band, and I just idolize Chicago, and so I just listen to those things over and over, and of course, all of their background parts or the parts that horns play are so melodic, and, like, they do a lot of unison stuff, which means that you gotta be perfectly together and perfectly in tune, but then, of course, then they break into their harmonies and their independent parts, but nerds like me listen to that and just, you have to play it like Chicago did. Otherwise, you're just a goofy cover band,
Right.
and anyway, I so much enjoy watching your band, Jim, and watching the audience as they all sit there and kinda sing those background parts. I think that is really funny to watch them do that, but just over and over you see it.
Chicago was they were terrific singers. Terry Kath, of course, was amazing. And Peter Cetera, you mentioned, they were phenomenal. So we work really hard to try to get the vocals right because that's what people remember. They remember singing those songs. They weren't playing guitar or drums necessarily to it, but they were sure singing it when it came on the radio.
You betcha. Well, and speaking of that, Chicago, because whenever the original band is playing, the guy that's playing the bass part, well, Peter, uh, he's just working away there on his bass, and he's singing this incredible vocal at the same time. And the same thing with Terry Kath. And man, that is hard. I take my hat off to them.
Yeah. Well, Terry Kath especially, he sings like Ray Charles. He's got that wonderful voice, and then he's playing extremely fast. He's doing both at the same time. So
Right.
you're right. It's amazing. Interesting story about Terry Kath. I think it was a Whiskey A Go Go that they were playing in '69, I guess. And Jimi Hendrix came in, and he came backstage afterwards, and he said to Jimmy Pankow, "Wow, man, your horn players sound like one set of lungs, and your guitar player is better than me." That is praise indeed. Wow. So, the fact that David can play that stuff note for note and, not make errors, but really, I mean, it's so fast. Terry was just such a brilliant player and gifted writer, and terrific singer, you know?
And an outstanding musician.
Yeah. Yeah.
The things that make musicians a lot of times are not the things that are real obvious, like the way they're comping backgrounds and stuff like that. And he was just a pro's pro.
I agree. The other thing that's really attractive or amazing about Chicago is a lot of bands, come online, do their thing, record a song or two, and have a hit, and then burn out. Chicago is still out there playing today, albeit with only one member right now. But they've been doing that since '68, and they've sold over 100 million albums. It's astounding. What's an album? I know, but
Yeah. Yeah. Whole nother thing.
yeah.
Well, when people hear a tribute band, sometimes they underestimate how much musicianship is involved. What do they get wrong? I mean, what makes your band so special?
Well, I've played in a lot of bands over the years, and I've played with a lot of famous players. I've been very fortunate over time. And I will tell you that the amount of preparation that each person does of their own parts and then being able to assimilate that into the whole is really important. Our band kind of sublimates our own egos to be able to make that sound. In fact, there are times at the end of rehearsing a song for the first or second time, we're all sitting around grinning at rehearsal, going, I can't believe we can make that sound. It's just, I remember the first time we played question 67 and 68. We finished the song and it wasn't perfect, but the fact a lot of it sounded right. We were like, "Was that a was that w could we really do that?" So, you know, there's a real feeling of accomplishment and, the affection that we have for the other guys in the band is like no band I've ever been in. So
Yeah. Yeah. I can tell you that when you have a band that big, uh, when everything is going right, you feel this kinship just like it's your brother. But whenever the vibe gets strange, gets wonky, um, that's why a lot of bands break up is they don't want to be there anymore. It happened to the Beatles.
yeah, it happened to a lot of bands,
Yeah, yeah,
story is old as
exactly.
time. It's, you know, and pulled the trigger a few times when we really liked the guys that were playing. They just couldn't play it well enough, and we had to let them go. And I think that's part of why our reach for perfection, which you never get there, of course, but reaching for that and having the right guys who can do it and fit into that 9-piece band, seated and continue.
You're going to be here on the 9th and 10th of January, and we're all sold out. The 9th is going to be general admission, and we'll have 100 people here. But on the 10th, it's going to be, we have tables. We only have 10 tables and 4 to a table, so that's actually 40 people will be here. Is there any difference in how you play to different types of rooms?
That is a great question. And the answer is I can only answer for myself. And generally speaking, I can't see anything out in the audience and I can't hear anything out in the audience. And all I can do is control my own drum part and make sure my timing is right, that I'm singing on key. I'm using in-ear monitors. I can, all of us except for David use in-ears. For me, it's the only way I can make sure that I'm on key and in my singing and that I can hear properly and have the exact mix that I want so that I can play the best. I'm not trying to mix out front. We have a terrific engineer, Marshall Argovitz, who's been for us for a number of years, and I know he works for you as well. He mixes for you. He's your house guy.
He came with you guys and then he stayed.
Yeah, nice. So he's been mixing us, and we've been playing shows lately that have sounded better and better, and we're getting it. I say we've had it dialed in, but we're getting even better at having the sound right. So that's very important to us. In fact, everybody has their own little mixer on their stand, so that they get all of the inputs from the PA, and you mix your own sound. It's digital. It comes right out of the board. And so we're not dependent on anyone else. If you can't hear it, it's your own fault. So
Right, exactly. Now, well, let me ask you, you've played here 5 times, and, the guys are all very kind to me, about, coming to the Songbird. Why do y'all like the Songbird? What makes it different?
well, we just played up on a stage this past week with about 300 people there, which still relatively a small crowd for us, considering we played last year at one point for 3,000 people outdoors. But there is something that is sort of magical about the Songbird. About instead of being up 5 feet in the air and back 50 feet from an audience, you're up close and personal. In fact, getting all 9 on the stage is not possible at the Songbird. So for us anyway. And our horn players stand on the floor in front of the stage and play. And I've never played with an audience that's that close up in that kind of structured show before. I think, there it is different. You're right. I get to feed off an audience that I don't normally get to experience. Lights are always in my eyes, but here people are, 5 feet in front of me and seeing us with all our warts and everything.
Well, what that breaks down to is this is an intimate place to play. What does that mean to you?
Well, that it's very unlike everywhere else we play. Like I mentioned, the intimacy is our relationship and our connection with your audience. And they have been extremely supportive, extremely kind to us. Fortunately, it seems they really like Chicago music. So, that's important. Somebody told me the other night when we were playing after the show, one of her friends came up to her, or not came up to her, but said to her after, I think the 4th song, "Don't these guys play anything but Chicago?" And she goes, they're a Chicago tribute band. That's what they do.
And that's why you have them.
Yeah. That's what we wanted to do, to push ourselves and for people to be able to appreciate it. The fact that they're able to get so close to us as we're playing is really neat for both sides, for both the audience and for us.
Well, let me tell you, sometimes we get young instrumentalists and I will put them over there specifically close to the horns because it's one thing to hear, just in a large or like in an orchestra or something like that. It's a whole nother thing. It's a completely different education when you're sitting 5 feet by a trumpet, playing all those licks that they do, or the trombone, or sax, any of those, it's different. It's a completely different experience when you're seeing them that close.
Well, I appreciate, we appreciate that you bring young people to the show, and that people younger than, our demographic. Somebody said the other day, well, this is your demographic. I said, no, we are our demographic, 55 and up, remember early Chicago. But since they're still out there and playing, and we're seeing their songs in movies and still playing on the radio, we're starting to see younger people at our shows. It makes us feel great that more people are appreciating that music.
Now, how does an audience change how you play?
Well, again, I mentioned that in most cases, except we're at, the Songbird, I don't see the audience much because the lights are in my eye, and I have a ridiculously large drum set. I guess I'm compensating for something. I don't know what, but it's difficult for me to see, man. There's 6 guys in front of me. We have 6 guys in front, so I don't see a lot of the audience generally. Um, and and the ones that I do see are usually pretty far away or up in a balcony, so it's hard to interact with them, and I'm really trying to concentrate. The stuff is hard enough that I have to concentrate hard. You play the Beatles or the Beach Boys, I love the music, but, I could sleep and play those parts.
Yeah, you mail it in.
Right, for Chicago, I really have to concentrate on it, which is fine. I mean, that's why we do it, because it's a challenge. When the audience does appreciate what we do, I mean, what I can sense and see, and what everybody else sees, of course, is, people will stand a lot of times at the end of songs, and we're just so humbled by their response. Of course, we're just doing something that we think we do well. We didn't write it, we didn't perform it originally. We're just happy to see that they feel that way about the Chicago music.
For me, it's where I really fell in love with music, is listening to Chicago. And so for me, man, if you truly love something, and I guess that's true with people too, you don't just fall out of love with them. I mean, when I fell in love with the music of Chicago, man, I fell hard, and I mean, it never went away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Me too. And all of us, I think that we were all, we didn't start this till we were in our 60s. So we waited a long time to be able to play this music and play it with other people that felt the same way we did. And, I've been listening to Chicago since I was in my early teens. So,
well, that says something about the catalog of Chicago. Let's talk for a second about that. You really do play a huge part of Chicago's catalog. And that seems like it's really difficult to keep that much music up, because you can't just ignore it for a year and then come back and play it.
right. Right, especially because nobody's using sheet music. We all have memorized our parts, including the horn players.
Right.
Most Chicago
Yeah.
tribute bands that you see are playing with, either an iPad or sheet music in front of them with music, and everybody in our band has internalized it, and I think that affects the way we play by actually learning every part. And those guys, our horn section really is just that. They're a section, and they rehearse not just with the band, but with each other, and work on parts all the time to try to perfect what they're doing together as a group.
Right. Well, you can certainly tell that, because, man, they nail it.
Thank you.
Well, Jim, we are so looking forward to having you here this weekend. One of the great things about your band is that the consistency just every time is just wonderful. And so we are really looking forward to seeing you this weekend. And anyway, you have any more thoughts about coming to the Songbird?
No, just to tell you that how much we appreciate you having us, not just once a year, but a few times every year. And it's a highlight for us that we look forward to always.
Well, we look forward to you. Thank you so much for being a part of Songbird Sessions. And once again, being a part of the Songbird family. People are clamoring to get here, to hear you. So once again, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been visiting with Jim Rosenthal, one of the leaders of Windy City, the Chicago tribute band out of the DFW area. I will say this, that there are numerous Chicago tribute bands out there, and this one is the band to hear. And we are so happy to present Windy City. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Tom. Bye-bye.